my search info go?
Well, first place, we have all our privacy policies are fully disclosed on our websites, and it's all written down very, very carefully. The most important thing we do is that after 18 months, the search information that you entered is so-called anonymized. It's literally gotten rid of, and we can't go back and track it back to you.
The data may seem anonymized, but if you combine it with enough other data, you can develop a pretty good profile of people, particularly, say, people in rural areas where there may not be that many internet users.
That's what happened in 2006, not with Google, but with AOL. In an attempt to aid scholars, AOL released a huge sample of anonymized search data, apparently without realizing it could be used to deduce the identities of users.
I had no idea. I couldn't find my own searches if I tried.
People like Candace Carpenter of Brooklyn. She had done AOL searches involving her legal work, her daughter's interests, and her family history. Much to her surprise, that supposedly anonymized data was enough to lead us straight to her.
I don't like the thought that my daughter's going to be evaluated based on searches I'm doing, but I can see that that could happen, and I certainly don't want people being able to find my daughter.
Google has not had a similar incident.
Right now, Google hasn't harmed anyone, doesn't really generate nightmares or tragedies, but who's to say what Google's going to be like in 5 or 10 years? Google's mission...
Siva Vaidyanathan is a professor of media studies and law at the University of Virginia.
We cannot rely on how much we trust this company. It's great that we trust them now, it's great that we use them now, but let's be careful about this because companies don't last.
The concern, experts say, is that Google or pieces of its database could someday be sold or spun off or end up in different hands, or that the company's priorities and policies could simply change over time. Worries over Google and privacy become even more troubling to critics, given that Google is big and only getting bigger.
There's no reason to think that in 5 years Google won't essentially be the equivalent of the web itself, because it's active in so many different areas of the web, including hosting web publishing and web video and so forth.
Google's size and its ever-expanding reach have even attracted the scrutiny of the U.S. Department of Justice. Google says it's unwarranted.
Do you see Google as the most powerful company in the world?
No, not at all.
You have a lot of information, though, about people.
But we don't use it, and we don't misuse it. We could misuse it, but if we did, we would quickly become much less powerful because everyone would flee to our competitors. So part of the answer to the criticism that's implied by your question and the direct ones by others is that if we broke our trust with our end users, they would leave, and then we wouldn't be very important anymore.
These mobile phones have eyes, they've got a camera, they've got ears, every one of them has a microphone, they've got skin, you can touch them, and they're increasingly augmenting our own senses.
The idea is you see something that interests you, you whip out your camera phone, take a picture of the object of interest, and this will trigger a Google search.
Congratulations. Here's your phone. Cool.
Don't look now, but that unassuming guy in the T-shirt handing out free Google cell phones
I'll give you your phone far less professionally than it would happen otherwise.
is actually one of the wealthiest and most powerful business leaders in the world.
I'd like to introduce Sergey Brin, who's going to be joining us.
Why would Sergey Brin, one of the 2 billionaire co-founders of Google, bother showing up at some mobile phone conference? Because for Google, the stakes couldn't be higher. Mobile phone use is skyrocketing, more than 4 billion worldwide, with 1 billion sold in 2008 alone. Brin wants to make sure Android, Google's operating system for mobile phones, gets a big piece of that market.
If you can't look at the search results on your cell phone reasonably because the browser's not capable enough or the application sophistication is not good enough, then we can't really deliver you that information when you're using your phone. But Android has allowed us to bridge that gap.
The conference been good for you guys?
Yeah, it's been great.
Brin has tapped this man, Vic Gundotra, to make sure that as the world goes mobile, Google goes with it.
Why is it so important for Google to have a major presence on cell phones?
We are seeing a very fundamental shift where increasingly, particularly among a young demographic and in Asian countries, the primary access to the internet is not through the PC, but through mobile devices.
Google first put its Android software in phones in 2008. Other manufacturers like Motorola, Samsung, and even Dell are now jumping on the Android bandwagon. But it'll still be a struggle for Google Android to challenge the 800-pound gorilla of mobile phones, Apple.
The new iPhone, 3G.
Apple's iPhone, with its vast market of software applications, or apps, has huge momentum in the world of so-called smartphones, which act more like handheld computers and web browsers than simple cell phones.